The plane carrying Bryan Kohberger arrives in Pullman, Washington. The plane carrying Bryan Kohberger arrives in Pullman, Washington. The suspect in the grisly murders of 4 University of Idaho students switched his license plate 5 days after his car was spotted near the crime scene, according to state records and a newly unsealed case filing. Investigators believe Bryan Kohberger drove his 2015 white Hyundai Elantra from Pullman, Washington, to Moscow, Idaho, on November 13, when Kylie Goncalves, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin were stabbed to death, Moscow police said in an arrest affidavit released Thursday. Prior to the killings, Kohberger had been driving his Elantra with the Pennsylvania plate LFZ 8649, according to the affidavit. Before the slayings, Kohberger was pulled over twice while driving with that Pennsylvania plate, in Moscow on August 21 and at Washington State University in Pullman, where he was a PhD student, on October 14, according to the affidavit, which said his Pennsylvania plate was set to expire on November 30. Bryan Kohberger appears in Latah County Court on January 5, 2023. Bryan Kohberger appears in Latah County Court on January 5, 2023. Pool. On November 18 he registered his car in Washington and received the Washington license plate CFB 8708 on December 5, according to Washington State Department of Licensing records. That plate was seen in police body cam footage when he was pulled over in Indiana and captured by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado on December 13 during Kohberger's cross-country trip with his father back to their Pennsylvania home, according to the affidavit. Idaho murders, Bryan Kohberger held without bond in student slayings amid chilling new details. Surveillance video near the murder scene captured a white sedan traveling near the student's home in Moscow around the time of the killings. Moscow police put an alert out to local law enforcement to look for a white Elantra on November 25 as they searched for the killer. Read the affidavit here. 4 days later, a WSU police officer searched for white Elantras registered at the school and discovered Kohberger's car with the Pennsylvania plate, according to the affidavit. Later that same day, a different WSU police officer found Kohberger's car in a Pullman parking lot about 10 miles from the crime scene, the affidavit says. Idaho murder suspect Kohberger's Pennsylvania classmates say he was bright, awkward, bullied in school. The next week, on December 7, Moscow detectives said they wanted to speak with the occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra that was found in the area of the off-campus home where the 4 students were killed. Bryan Christopher Kohberger arrives at the Monroe County Courthouse in Pennsylvania on January 3, 2023. Bryan Christopher Kohberger arrives at the Monroe County Courthouse in Pennsylvania on January 3, 2023. The image direct for Fox News Digital. Tips and leads have led investigators to look for additional information about a vehicle being in the immediate area of the King Street residence during the early morning hours of November 13. Investigators believe the occupant, of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case, police said in a news release. As police asked for the public's help, law enforcement seemingly began to zero in on Kohberger. The WSU officer who found the car in the Pullman parking lot ran the car, and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag, the affidavit says. Kohberger's car was ultimately seized during Pennsylvania State Police's early morning raid of Kohberger's parents' Albrightsville home on December 30, State Police said during a press conference on Tuesday. Idaho murder victim's roommate heard crying, saw man in mask morning of killings, court docs. Bryan Kohberger, 28, is accused of killing Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kylie Goncalves, and Madison Mogan. Bryan Kohberger, 28, is accused of killing Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kylie Goncalves, and Madison Mogan. Latah County Sheriff's Office. Accused Idaho murderer Bryan Kohberger and his father are pulled over in Indiana for speeding video. That's when Kohberger was arrested before he was extradited on Wednesday. He landed Wednesday night in Pullman, where he was seen in cuffs, a sweater and red jumpsuit being escorted by law enforcement. Click here to get the Fox News app. The Moscow Police Department continues to urge the public to submit any images or information that they think could be important or useful to their investigation. They can do so by calling 208-883-7180, submitting tips through tiplany@ci.moscow.id.us and sending digital media here. Chris Eberhardt is a crime and U.S. news journalist for Fox News Digital. Email tips to chris.eberhardt@fox.com or on Twitter @ChrisEberhardt48.